The Holy Gospel according to John. After he appeared to his followers in Jerusalem, Jesus showed himself again to the disciples by the Sea of Tiberias, and he showed himself in this way. Gathered there together was Simon Peter, Thomas called the twin, Nathanael of Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, and 2 others of his disciples. Simon Peter said to them, "I'm going fishing." They said to him, "We will go with you." They went out and got into the boat, but that night they caught nothing. Just after daybreak, Jesus stood on the beach, but the disciples did not know that it was Jesus. Jesus said to them, "Children, you have no fish, have you?" They answered him, "No." He said to them, "Cast the net to the right side of the boat and you will find some." So they cast it, and now they were not able to haul it in because there were so many fish. That disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, "It is the Lord." When Simon Peter heard that it was the Lord, he put on some clothes, for he was naked, and jumped into the sea. But the other disciples came in the boat, dragging the net full of fish, for they were not far from the land, only about 100 yards off. When they had gone ashore, they saw a charcoal fire there with fish on it and bread. Jesus said to them, "Bring some of the fish that you have caught." So Simon Peter went aboard and hauled the net ashore, full of large fish, 153 of them. Though there were so many, the net was not torn. Jesus said to them, "Come and have breakfast." Now none of the disciples dared to ask him, "Who are you?" because they knew it was the Lord. Jesus came and took the bread and gave it to them and did the same with the fish. This was now the 3rd time that Jesus had appeared to the disciples after he was raised from the dead. When they had finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" He said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Feed my lambs." A second time he said to him, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" And he said, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Tend my sheep." He said to him a 3rd time, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter felt hurt because he said to him the 3rd time, "Do you love me?" He said to him, "Lord, you know everything, and you know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Feed my sheep. Very truly I tell you, when you were younger, you used to fasten your own belt and to go wherever you wished. But when you grow old, you will stretch out your hands, and someone else will fasten a belt around you and take you where you do not wish to go." He said this to indicate the kind of death by which he would glorify God. After this he said to him, "Follow me." The Gospel of the Lord. Praise the Lord. Please be seated. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. Amen. So, you got to give it to the disciples. They finally got out of that locked room. It took 2 appearances by the risen Lord to get them out of that locked room. We don't notice that so much in last week's reading because we're so intent on laughing at Thomas. We miss that point. They're locked in the room, hidden away from the world out of fear. Jesus comes to them, appears in his resurrected form, and gives them his peace. And then they stay in the locked room. Don't they? Because they're still in the locked room when Thomas comes back and Jesus appears again. See what I mean? We're so intent on poking fun at Thomas. Doubting Thomas this, doubting Thomas that. We don't notice that. The Lord appeared to them, and they didn't budge. They didn't move an inch. And we poke fun at Thomas. But Jesus appears the 2nd time in the presence of Thomas. Thomas puts his fingers in the mark of his hands and in the wound on his side and believes. And there ends chapter 20. Chapter 21 begins, and drum roll please, the disciples are out of the room. And they've gone home. They've gone back to Galilee. says Sea of Tiberias, Sea of Galilee, same body of water, different name depending on whether you're Roman or Jewish, whether it's early or a wee bit later. They've gone home. Now, here it might sound like I'm poking fun at them. They were locked up in sort of self-imprisonment, doing nothing, helping no one. Now they're out and about, or as the Scots would say, oot and about, but they've gone home to Galilee. And then Peter says, I'm going fishing. Now we don't know in the text whether Peter means, I'm going back to my old livelihood, who's with me? Or maybe he simply means, I miss the water. I'm going out to fish. In the same way we might say, I'm going out to swing a club and a few balls. I'm heading out to the links again. But it probably means one or the other. Either he just wants to be back on the water doing what he used to do, or not only have they gone home, they've gone back to their old livelihood. But I don't mean to criticize here, because they're under pressure and there's still that anxiousness, even though they've met the risen Lord twice. In moments like that, we don't shoot off to experience something new in faraway places with strange sounding names. No, when we experience that kind of pressure, we try and go back to the familiar, to just catch our breath, to be around the sights and the sounds of the people that we know best and love most. So I don't mean to sound like a smart aleck despite the fact my lips are moving. I don't mean to sound that way. Because it could be argued that the disciples are experiencing their own resurrection, but they're experiencing it in stages. Stages where they are locked away from the world, and stages where they are back in the world, but they're surrounded by familiar things and familiar people and familiar routines. So they're out on the water. They're fishing by night. It's a sight to see. Again, as you know, I was on pilgrimage a few months ago to stand there on the pier in the Sea of Galilee and see people actually folding up their nets after a night's fishing. To realize that people still do that, bigger, fancier boats, but they still do that. Fishing at night in the Sea of Galilee is very popular. I'm not a fisherman, I don't get this, I don't understand it, but you can catch more fish at night. It also has the added advantage, purely practical, that if you catch the fish at night, by the time you bring them ashore the next morning and take them to market, they are as fresh as a fish is going to be. You don't have to salt them, you don't have to preserve them until market the next day. You land the fish that morning as the sun is rising, and they're in the market, fresh as can be. They don't recognize Jesus. Now, it is just daybreak, and they are pretty close to the shore, but you know what the light does to you? And I mentioned a few weeks ago that the whole Galilee region bears a striking resemblance to Scotland, and I don't mean anything funny by that. I stood in Galilee and looked around and thought, that could be a loch, that could be a purple-covered hill with heather. It wasn't, it was just another purple plant that looked like heather. And in Scotland, believe it or not, the weather is not the best in the world. And so mist and fog and har is something that's quite common. So maybe they don't recognize them because there isn't enough light. Maybe they don't recognize them because there's fog in the way. Or maybe they just don't recognize them because they're not in tune to witnessing the risen Lord yet. It's not become part of their faith. But they don't recognize him until he shouts out to them. And the NRSV translation is bad at this point. Because the NRSV says that Jesus shouts, "Children, you've caught no fish, have you?" Try shouting that to a fisherman. You'll get a few choice words in response. "Children, you've been working hard all night, you've got nothing, have you? Not the chauffeur." The word that's used there, the Greek word, is a word that, if you were a Brit, you would translate it as lads. "Hey, lads, you caught me," or boys, bring the boys home. You're not talking about little kids, you're not being dismissive, you're not talking down to someone. It's a familiar term. So the NRSV translates it as children, but really Jesus is standing there saying, "Hey lads, didn't catch anything, did you? Hey boys, no luck, huh?" They still don't recognize him. Throw the net off the other side of the boat. I don't think there's any meaning in the left or the right side of the boat. Throw the net off the other side of the boat, and it's when they realize that it's full of fish, they realize that this is Jesus. When something awesome and incredible happens before their eyes, they know it must be Jesus. See, they're not without faith. They're not without a relationship with him. Someone just told us to do something, we don't see who it is, we can't recognize it, we do it, there's a miracle, it's Jesus. In the presence of awesome, in the presence of life-changing events, they know they're in the presence of Jesus. Peter is naked up to this point, don't ask, and he throws some clothes on and comes ashore. And there they sit and have a meal with Jesus on a charcoal fire. I don't know whether this is meant to be a foretaste of the feast to come, you know, that heavenly banquet, or it's a reflection of the Eucharist. I do know that in the early church, for reasons I've never been fully on board with, an early symbol of the Eucharist was fish and bread. So it could be a reflection of the heavenly banquet, or it could be a reflection of the Eucharist. Either way, they're breaking bread together. But you notice how subdued everything is? There's no incredible celebration going on here. The most exciting thing that happened was that the beloved disciple, the one whom Jesus loved, whom we assume is John, shouts, "It's the Lord!" We know it's exciting enough for a naked Peter to throw some clothes on and go ashore, but after that, it's kind of just a wee bit subdued, isn't it? And we get from the text a suggestion that there's still some puzzlement going on. They know it's Jesus, but they don't want to ask who he is. Just don't know a better expression for it. Just a little strangely subdued. And Jesus takes that moment of quiet and still sort of head-scratching puzzlement to have an incredibly profound conversation with Peter, the one who has denied Jesus 3 times and now gets to say 3 times that he loves him. I don't want to dwell on this too long, because I remember a series of sermons when I really squeezed every ounce of meaning out of this, and I don't want to do that again to you. It's cruel and unusual punishment. Some scholars look at that exchange between Peter and Jesus and they say, oh, the different words and verbiage is just stylistic, you know, just thrown in by the gospel writer John to make the passage sound good. You know the way you might write something and then look at it and say, I can't send that. I've used that same word 6 times in 4 sentences. I'll have to come up with another word that means the same, so that in one paragraph I don't say therefore 6 times. You know, stylistic. I don't believe that for a fleeting moment. The change in word, as I've mentioned before, is the word love. In English, it's just, do you love me? Yes, I love you. Do you love me? Yes, I love you. Do you love me? Yes, I love you. Now, that could be a song, couldn't it? Michael will want to set that to music sometime when we're bored. But the word love is being used differently. Jesus uses one word for love, and Peter uses another word in reply. Peter, do you love me? Agape, heavenly, divine, noble, the highest form of love. And Peter says, yes, Lord, I love you, Philios, brotherly love. But Peter, do you love me? Agape, heavenly, noble, reverential love. Yes, Lord, you know that I love you like a brother. So if you wanted to translate that properly into English, it would be, Peter, do you love me? Yes, Lord, you know that I'm fond of you. Peter, do you love me? Yes, Lord, you know that I'm fond of you. And then Jesus mixes it up. Peter, are you really fond of me? Yes, Lord, you know that I'm really fond of you. I think there's meaning there. But let's not be too hard on Peter. I know I'm hard on him. I'm only hard on him because he's as much of a failure as I am. He's as human as I am. He's as frail as I am. He's as fallible as I am. That's why I'm hard on him. I see me in him so much. Peter is showing the Lord the only love he can show him at that moment in time. Peter loves him like a brother, Philios, Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. He says, yes, Lord, you know how incredibly fond I am of you. But Jesus is calling him to a higher love, that no strings attached love. That love that seeks nothing in return. That love that doesn't love just because it sees itself in the other. That love that doesn't require or demand anything. Just that love that pours itself out for the other. That divine, noble, heavenly, reverential love. Finally, Jesus says, yeah, you are fond of me, aren't you? Yes, Lord, I'm fond of you. A reflection from Jesus that he understands that that's how far Peter can go. And if that would be the end of the story, that would be a kind of sad ending. That would be an ending fit for a Bergman movie. But it's not the end of the story. And we know that when Jesus says to Peter, when you were young, you could tie your own belt around your waist and go wherever you want, but the day will come when you have to raise your hands up and someone else will tie a belt around your waist and they will lead you where you do not wish to go. And John, the evangelist, in parentheses, gives us an explanation of that. This was to show the kind of death that Peter would die, his martyrdom. How do you get from brotherly love and being fond of Jesus to the kind of depth and profundity of love that has Peter laying down his life in Jesus' name? It's not fondness that does that. It's being gripped by the power of agape love, being filled and grabbed and animated by pure love. How does that come about? Yes, after the 9 o'clock service, someone came up to me and said, the Holy Spirit, Pastor, the Holy Spirit filled Peter and the disciples at Pentecost. True enough. True enough. But a lot happens in Peter's life between this day and Pentecost. What happens is that Peter begins to serve. And that's where the triple back and forth kicks in again. Do you love me? Yes, I'm fond of you. Feed my lambs. Tend my sheep. Feed my little sheep. The words keep changing. In English it isn't so obvious. And I think it keeps changing to demonstrate all the kinds of sheep in the fold. The multiplicity of peoples and places and types and colours and shapes and sizes. Feed my lambs, tend my sheep, feed my little sheep. Words that I know well growing up in Scotland as a good Episcopalian, St. Paul's Cathedral in Dundee, and above the entranceway to the fellowship hall, carved in stone. Feed my sheep, tend my lambs. Peter's love changes from fondness and brotherly love to agape and unconditional love as he feeds the lambs, tends the sheep, feeds the little sheep. It is in the act of servanthood, the act of being there for another and not seeking anything in return. It's as Peter pours himself out, honouring the Lord's plea, that Peter discovers true love. You know, we get it in our heads that when we serve others, when we put no strings on that service, when we are simply there for each other seeking nothing in return, and when we do good for others, feeding, binding up, being with the lonely, searching out the lost, binding up the broken, bringing the lost sheep back into the fold, when we're doing that, we have it in our heads that the only beneficiary of that is the one on the receiving end of our largesse. When we feed them, they'll be happier. When we give them a cup to drink, they'll be happier. When we clothe them, they'll be happier. When we draw alongside them in their loneliness and the despair, they will be the better for it. What we don't realize is what happens to us in the doing. What we don't realize is the incredible gift that comes to us when we serve others. And that gift is not financial, and that gift is not a brownie point, or a gold star, or a bright shining halo. That gift is that we start to discover what love is really like, what love is really all about. It's our discovery of why we're here and what we are to do. At its most profound level, it is the meaning of life. And we discover that not on the shelves of a library or in an office held as the rock upon which the church will be built, not through perfection and always getting it right. Peter showed us that. It comes to us as an incredible gift when we roll up our sleeves, tie that towel around our waist, and get down and dirty in the stuff of ministry and servanthood. That's when we discover what love really is. And to tie that to a previous sermon, that's when we see the abundance and profundity of shalom. Amen.